This is a place.
This is the place?
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place.
Welcome to this week's episode of This is a Place podcast. My name is Nate, and with me is a guy that if laziness was an Olympic sport, he would take fourth place. Brandon.
Fourth place.
Yes, because you'd be too lazy to go up on the podium and get your medal.
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate.
There you go.
What place would you take?
I don't think I'd even show up on that
You
lazy.
wouldn't even show up.
So,
Was it you that shared that video with me of the lazy Olympics or whatever?
oh, like
was?
real life Olympics
Real
or
life
something like
Olympics,
that?
yeah.
I don't think I shared it with you, but I know what you're talking about.
The everyday man Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also a comedian. It might be, is it Ryan Hamilton? It might be Ryan Hamilton that talks about how in every Olympic sport, you should have the Olympics as normal, but you should throw just one average Joe into every event.
Yeah.
Like, racing against Michael Phelps in the swimming pool. He's like, what stroke is that? I think that's just waiting, trying to catch his breath, something like that.
That's about all I'd be able to do.
He's doing
Maybe
the doggy
float.
paddle to make it across the pool. And
What would be your everyday man Olympic sport?
Everyday man. I don't know. I think it would be fun. It's kind of not answering your question, but to get a group of guys together, like 10 guys, and then you just have a decathlon. That means 10, right? Sports. So you take 10 sports, like the average Joe sport. So you do basketball, you could do miniature golf, you could do billiards, bowling, pickleball, home run derby, whatever it may be. You just get like 10 like sports, like gym sports, and then you compete in all those 10 sports and see who is the best average Joe at overall.
That sounds fun. I'd be down for that.
Yeah. So that'd be my Olympics. And then, yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you do have a shot at the Olympics someday, because they could put pickleball in the Olympics, and you're
I'm
the best
sure
of
they
the
have.
best.
I think they might, if they don't already, but the Utah Summer Olympics, I think, don't they do pickleball?
I have no
I
idea.
don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with the way it's growing that maybe one day it will become a Olympic sport.
Hopefully.
They have so many other sports. Why not throw that in there? I'm pretty sure my Olympic career has already come and gone. I did not get on that train.
I mean, we could probably throw together a bobsled team. I'm sure we could figure that out.
Or what's the other one? Luge?
Yeah, luge or bobsled. Wasn't it the most recent Winter Olympics where whoever the guys were that were the curlers, they just looked like a bunch of dads that needed a hobby, so they picked up curling on the weekends, and then they go on and win gold or something.
Huh. I didn't think about that. That's a sport that we could probably figure out and maybe still have a chance at.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't have to be like in top physical condition to compete in that sport.
I'm pretty good at sweeping.
And I can aim pretty well.
Yeah, we can figure it out. Maybe we should go to the Oval and figure out some curling. Get our stock ready for 2026 Olympics.
Let's do it.
Well, until then, we have the 2002 Olympics to look back on, which is what we're doing this whole month.
Yeah.
So
last week we talked about the opening ceremonies, and I just saw a commercial for the opening ceremonies, and if I want to get up at 4:30 tomorrow morning, I can watch them, or I can watch them already recorded tomorrow night.
at this point, when people listen to this, it's already happened, so they could probably get on Peacock and watch all the Olympic stuff. Yeah, this week we had the opportunity to speak with someone who actually was a torchbearer in the Olympics, and she was my neighbor growing up, and she shares some things that I honestly had forgotten about the whole experience. So it was kind of cool to catch up with her and hear about the whole process of running the torch in the Olympics.
I wasn't going to buy the torch because at the time, we were just young parents and, money was tight. And so I just kind of felt really lucky to get the outfit and be able to run it, but I wasn't going to actually buy the torch. And I ran a race, and this was like the Thanksgiving race. So it was the November before. And I knew that I was going to be running the torch in February during the Olympics. And there was a guy that was, just chatting, and we kind of got on that subject of the Olympics, and I let him know I was going to be a torch runner. And I told him I wasn't going to buy the torch. And he was basically like, oh, you've got to buy that torch, put it on a credit card, do whatever you have to do, but you've got to buy the torch. And so I went home and talked to my husband, Kyle, about it. And I'm so glad that I did, just because it's just been so fun to have it, and just part of that history and everything. So I'm grateful we ended up putting it on a credit card, but we paid it off, and I've got a torch. So it worked out really good. So
do you mind me asking how much it cost?
Yeah, it was $350. So, which, back then it was a lot of money, like for us back in 2002.
That's like worth like what, $5,000 today?
I don't know.
With inflation.
I'd kind of be curious, especially, like around the Olympic time. It makes me wonder if it would shoot up even more, but yeah, I'm not sure. But anyway, so
Or
yeah.
something you never even think of selling. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Heavens no. Yeah.
Yeah. Now
Nate
it's
look it up later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not for sale.
Not for sale.
Yeah.
And it's in an undisclosed location, so don't even think about it.
That is right. It is. It's hidden. I had it on display for a while, but then I kind of wrapped it up, recently, just we've been like moving things around lately. So I'm like, well, I'll just put it in a safe place until we find a permanent spot for it again. So, but yeah.
Do you have any idea like how many torches there are?
For the 2002,
yeah,
I want to say, and I could totally be wrong, but I want to say that there were probably around 3,000 to 4,000 torch runners that went all through, but I could totally be wrong on that. But that was somebody was saying that, but I don't know how true that is. So
I don't know how many were specific in Utah, but for the 2002 Olympics, there are 12,012.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
I don't know if they probably didn't, but they probably didn't make a torch for every person, I'd assume. Maybe they did.
Yeah, they might have, because I bought mine that day. So they might have made one for every runner. So yeah. Interesting, huh? Yeah. So I'm not sure what they did with leftovers or or whatever, and it's really interesting too, because inside, what makes the flame on the torch is like a little tiny propane canister. And so there's kind of a thing on the side. I don't know, you probably can't see it, but there's like this little thing right here on the side. But there's a person with a special like key that would turn that on for you right before you would start running. And then they turned it off. And what they told us in our little orientation when we were all getting ready to board the bus is that once you pass the flame and it's extinguished, that you're never supposed to light the torch again because you've passed on the flame. And so they're like, don't ever, light it again, because it's basically don't do it, just because you've already passed the flame. And I guess that's, once it's distinguished, you're not supposed to ever light it again. So
is it like bad luck?
I don't know. I think it's just like the whole Olympic thing, and then because once once you've passed it, then, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's like you've passed the flame, and you're not supposed to ever light our torch again. And when they, the cauldron, when they turn it off, hey, so when they
Right.
turn, at the last night of the Olympics, when they, turn off the cauldron, then they're never supposed to turn that cauldron on again, ever. So anyway, but I don't know like what the story is behind it. So
Just the integrity of the
mhm.
games, I guess.
Yeah, and the flame. I think there must be some significance to the flame. So that would be kind of interesting to research, I think. So
Well, I did a bit of research, and I was very, I feel like, I feel kind of dumb, but I thought the flame was always going in Athens. It's just a
oh,
continual flame. In my mind, that's what was going on. But I guess they, at least for these Olympics, they lit the flame, I think, on November 19th of 2001. And then it stayed for 2 weeks until somebody went and grabbed the flame and then brought it through Atlanta. And then it made the trek all around the U.S. to eventually come here to Utah. But so maybe other people think that the flame's always going, then that's what's so cool about it is this flame's never gone out, but that doesn't make sense. That's impossible. So how did you get involved? What was the whole process of you getting such a cool experience like this?
so yeah, that it's a pretty interesting story. So as you know, like we lost our infant daughter, Dana. And because of that, I got involved with the Share Parents of Utah, and it's a nonprofit organization that helps and supports families who have lost an infant to stillborn, newborn, death, or miscarriage. And so I got really involved with that, and I put together, because I love to run, I put together a race to support the Share Parents, just financially, and to kind of keep it going, because it was just a kind of near and dear to my heart organization. And with that race, we were able to fund the Share Parents of Utah for 2 years. So it was a really successful race and stuff. And so I remember them announcing on the radio, if you know somebody who's, done service in the community, why don't you nominate them? I just didn't even think anything of it. Well, my stepmom nominated me. So she wrote this really beautiful letter and submitted it to the community, to the committee. And I just happened to be chosen as being, somebody who has contributed to the community. So when we had like our orientation meeting, so going back a little bit, so I didn't even know. And then like a few days before I found out, my stepmom said, oh, hey, by the way, I nominated you to be a torch runner. And I was like, what, and she's like, yeah, you just are always, serving in the community. And so she's like, yeah, I nominated you to be one, but, I'm like, she's like, I don't know how many other people have been nominated, so I don't know if you'll get it, but just so you know. And then literally it was like 2 days later, I got this letter in the mail from the Olympic Committee stating that I had been chosen to be a torch runner, and kind of gave me all the details. And they just said, we're going to be sending you like an outfit. What size would you like? And so I just had to, kind of choose and whatever, and let them know that, yes, I would love to accept this, like honor of running the torch. And, so I sent that in. So that's kind of how that all came about. And then it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks later, and I got all my whole outfit in the mail, and yeah, it was awesome. I went over to your house, Brandon, and we opened it. I don't know if you remember that at all, but
somewhere deep in my
yeah. Yeah, like it was funny because I opened everything at your house with your mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So but I know that you were still pretty little and everything, but yeah, so I opened it all up, and it was just amazing. And then when we did go to our orientation meeting, they gave us like this big opportunity to just basically say, what we've done in the community. So I just kind of let them know. And but there were probably about 20 people in my group. And so we just all went around the room and just kind of told what we'd done in the community. And there were people there that, were just, I remember one lady was like, she was a service dog trainer and she would train dogs and, for service. And so it was just a big array of people that just contributed to the community. That's how you got chosen, I guess, is just your contributions to the community.
They said there was around 120,000 applicants, so you were in company with you're selected out of a big group of people, so that's quite an honor. Where was your route that you ran? Do you remember how far you ran, anything like that?
Yeah, it was pretty short because there were so many people, so it wasn't very long at all. It was 0.8 miles, so not even a mile. And I ran east and west, and I'm trying to think, it was on the north side of Cottonwood Hospital when it was Cottonwood Hospital at the time.
Okay.
So I ran east and west, and I started at a fire station, and then I ran it all the way down to State Street from the fire station. And so, and what was really awesome is that, but just even it was just really cool. From the time that we got to our orientation place, it was at Larry Miller's car dealership. And then, we got to meet the people in our group, and then we boarded a bus, and, it was just, I don't know, it was just really, I don't know, you felt like a movie star, honestly, because it was just, they treated you like you were something special. And it was like, oh my gosh, I kind of feel like a rock star here, and then just riding the bus and everybody's just jumping and cheering and everything. It was just like, holy cow, I can't believe I'm doing this. It was pretty awesome. And then, just, I don't know, they told us exactly what to expect, how to do it. And then you'll get off the bus, we'll hand you the torch, we'll light it. And then, we'll turn it off at the end of your route. And so, anyway, I ran it, 2 people before Larry Miller. So, which of course he's this great guy. So it was me, and then I passed it off to a guy, and then he passed it off to Larry Miller. So Larry Miller was able to run, in front of his dealerships on State Street. So that was pretty exciting, but the whole experience. And so I don't know, I think for me, we had to wear gloves. And I was so afraid that with those gloves, I was going to drop the torch. So I was just death grip on my torch, not to drop it, that was my biggest fear. But it was just fun to run, and then, just having everybody cheer. And it was just, and cowbells and, banners, and just the whole energy and the whole spirit of the Olympics was really incredible. It was just amazing. It really was. It just didn't even feel real half the time. So, and then just at the end of my little route, the guy put my torch out, and then I was just bombarded with people wanting my signature. And it was I'm like, what? And they wanted my picture, so I don't even know. So there's probably a gazillion people that have my picture with them, and I have no idea who they are.
I didn't even realize it was across. It makes sense that it was across the whole United States, but I mean, even you funnel that down, and you were still a select group of people just here in Utah doing it to represent the state. And I mean, you carried it. Probably it was the same day as the opening ceremonies, right?
Yeah. So mine was on February 8th, 2002. So. Yeah, opening day. And there were so many people that said, we saw you on TV, because and I guess I was in some commercial clips. People said, I never saw it, but they were like, yeah, you're in a commercial clip, and I'm like, really? So, but I never saw it. I never personally saw it, but anyway, I guess my face was pretty famous out there for a while. So.
Yeah. As a kid, I don't remember seeing the uniform and you unveiling it for us, but when it got to TV, that's when it made it real, and you were a big star in my eyes.
Oh, awesome. I'm so glad I could do that for you, Brandon. So yeah, so it was all thanks to my stepmom for nominating me, to do it. And yeah, it really was just like an incredible spirit. Like I said, the energy and just everything about the whole Olympics, and just, I don't know, it was pretty amazing. So
Well, aside from the torch, anything else that sticks out to you about the Olympics that was a favorite memory or anything? I mean, that's probably got to be the favorite. But aside from
yeah.
that, did you really get involved into the Olympics because of it? Or like,
Do you know, like every time the Olympics, I am so glued to the TV. I just love it. I just love, just that spirit and just that bringing together the world, for those 2 weeks at a time. That is just amazing to me. And just even that day, it just felt like the world is together. And that was like, I think the most incredible thing, that everything was just focused on the Olympics. You can just set aside all of the, I don't know, like all of the division and things like that, but like during the Olympics, everybody is just, they all just come together. And I think, you really felt that when you were running the torch. And, you just felt like this whole community of people were all together, just for this 2 weeks or whatever that the Olympics was there, going. And it was just incredible. But even just during that whole time in Salt Lake, when the Olympics were going, there was just such a positive energy everywhere you went. There was just this amazing energy of just, togetherness and just the sport itself. And, it was just, yeah, it was just a really incredible time. I really hope that we can get the Olympics back here, because it would be fun to be able to experience that again.
yeah, I was gonna say a once in a lifetime opportunity, but maybe not. Maybe
I
you'll
know.
get a
Yeah.
run in it again.
Yeah. It would be so awesome. It would, to bring it here again. So yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Crazy that it's been 20 years already, right?
I know. Yeah, it is. It is like super crazy to think. In some ways it does. It just feels like it was just yesterday in a lot of ways. So I do remember too, like we were all worried about the snow during the 2002 Olympics,
I
because
remember that.
yeah, like Utah, it's like supposed to be like the greatest snow on earth. And it was like, here we've got the
Nothing.
Olympics and no snow. Like it was crazy. So I just remember that was a big concern. But everything went well. Like it came together. I'm sure they were probably making snow like crazy, but
Yeah.
you know.
You
So
had that, and also coming off of 9/11, it was like that was kind of hanging over too. The world's
yeah.
coming together, but also there's that worry that there's this big event.
Yeah, I do remember that too. And it was kind of a concern as far as like, is there something going to happen or
Yeah.
anything like that? But nothing happened. And, yeah, it was great. So yeah, it was just amazing how everybody just unified and, came together, and it was really awesome.
Well, that's so cool. Well, thanks for sharing your experience with us, and thanks for the work you did to get there and be such an awesome member of the community.
Well, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that. So yeah, but thanks for just allowing me to share. It's been fun to go back and reminisce and, have those memories flood back. It's been great. So thank you for your time and this opportunity.
So sounds like you need to autograph the torch before we steal it.
Yeah, I better do that, right?
So autograph it and then we'll come steal it.
So just so you know, it's under my bed. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. It's not.
What's the code of your safe?
Right.
Do you have any idea, Nate, how much it costs for them to do the relay for the 2002 Olympics?
I have no idea, but I was wondering that same question while we were talking to Stacey, because I did not realize how much is involved, how many people are involved, and I didn't realize that they probably do make a torch or make one available for them to purchase for each person who runs the relay.
You know what that tells you? There's that many torches out there. You could probably buy one somewhere, somehow, pretty easily.
Well, I am super curious now if there is any listed on eBay, or if there ever has been any listed on eBay.
Quick Google search. finds a Salt Lake City 2002 Winter Olympic torch used, obviously.
That'd be weird if it wasn't. Or wouldn't it be
Six
valuable if it
thousand
wasn't? What?
$6,980.
Wow. I'm really glad now that Stacey pulled the trigger and paid money for that torch, because even though I highly doubt she'll ever sell it. I mean, I never would sell
I'd
it.
never advocate for her to do that. Honestly, I feel kind of bad for the people that are selling these. Either they really need the money or they derive no sentimental value in those whatsoever.
Or maybe they bought two. Somehow they got their hands on two of them.
I mean, if they made 12,000 of them and not everybody bought them, there's bound to be a couple extra torches lying around.
Or like what we're gonna do, they stole it from somebody and then
So to answer the question you had, it cost $25 million just to do the relay, the torch relay itself. And that was paid for by the sponsors, who were Coca-Cola, Chevrolet, the Salt Lake Organizing Committee, Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines was the one who flew the torch over, and then Union Pacific was another. Just all the things you don't think of, all the logistical things that go into having a torch for the Olympics.
yeah, having the torch, and like we talked about last week, the preparation that goes into the opening ceremonies. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that's done to make the Olympics go off outside of the athletes training and competing in their sports.
Stacey was in company with some pretty prominent people that ended up bringing the torch. I remember Muhammad Ali was one of them. I think he was near the beginning. For Utah purposes, I mean, she mentioned Larry H. Miller, and then we got the Prophet at the time, President Hinckley, Elder Maxwell, and Elder Hales all ran the torch, as well as Donny Osmond, of course, Ann Romney, Mitt Romney's wife. I didn't see this on any website other than a Utah Torchbearers partial list from back then that listed tons and tons of people, and I combed through the list to see if there's any names I recognize. I found Stacey's, of course, and then also John Huntsman Sr.
Somebody has their torch relay tracksuit, size small, so it won't fit me, on eBay for $95.
Well, I mean, you could display it in your house. Say, this was when I was really skinny.
That's true. Have it framed.
She joked about being worried that she'd drop the torch. I would have just been worried that it would fall down and break the thing. What's the protocol if something like that happens? You extinguish the torch on the route.
Yeah, if it goes out, don't they have like a backup torch that's with them at all times to...
That makes sense.
I don't know. You're probably too young. I think it's Superman 3 where Superman turns bad. Have you seen that?
No, there's a
Richard Pryor. He's bad Superman, but
really,
the guy's running the torch up to light the main torch for the Olympics, and Superman blows it out. And the guy's just like, I don't know. He doesn't know what to do.
Wow, I'm gonna have to see that one. Yeah, I mean, in my mind, I always thought that, when Stacey did it, I thought part of running the torch was you had to be really physically fit, because she's a runner, and that was her life, running, and I thought it was going to be like a really long distance. I mean, 0.8 miles is still a good amount, but
right. But I wonder if, I guess we could have done the research, if there's other legs of the run that are longer, like you're talking about, but they probably had it shorter for when they got into town to get more people, because there's a lot more people watching and paying attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's when you get the celebrities and all the important people like Stacey running the torch, because all the eyes are on them.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about that. They
Or do
did
they do the
have.
short legs just to get more people involved? I don't know.
I mean, let's see. It was 13,500 miles. It's about 1.1 miles per person. So that
So
I
some
guess
might have
there's
been
not
longer,
shorter
some might have been
legs.
shorter.
If they split it up like that, everybody's getting about a mile to run,
Right.
which isn't terrible. And I mean, I can't imagine someone like the President Hinckley.
Running a full mile.
Maybe he did zero point 0.8 miles.
But I think I could train and do 0.8.
You could walk that.
I could walk that easy.
A brisk walk.
Very brisk. Maybe a fake jog
A fake jog.
where
Yeah.
you just move your arms more, make it look like you're actually running.
Yeah. There you go.
So
They did have, so obviously Salt Lake City was one of the appointed cities, but they also had ceremonies in Atlanta and New York. They originally had planned it out, I mean, in 2000, but they did add in a whole New York City and Washington, D.C. ceremonies because of the September 11th attacks. So they added that in and had specific events. My question is it always moving in the middle of the night? Is someone carrying the torch, or do they put it in a facility and just leave it and then pull it back out?
I feel like I remember seeing them running through the night, but
It's also in February, so it's dark pretty
dark
early
and cold.
and dark and cold. But yeah, it's a cool torch as well, manufactured by Coleman. They made it look kind of, it's like an icicle with a slight curve to represent speed and fluidity, and they kind of modeled it with the copper and the theme of fire and ice to look like, I guess, what the West looks like or what Utah is like. We are hoping that the Olympics come because Nate really wants to run the torch in the next one. So if everybody could please vote for him. He's done a lot for the community in his support of the pickleball
Community.
community.
And I saw a piece of garbage on the ground the other day and I picked it up
You did.
and I put it in the trash.
Did you return your cart at the grocery store?
I always return my cart at the grocery store.
Sign this man up.
So
Do you make your bed every morning?
No,
Oh, you don't stand a chance then.
I do not make my bed. I like getting into it when it's like all messy.
Really?
This feels like at home. I don't want to feel like I'm at a hotel.
You don't want the covers, the sheets tucked in too tight?
No, I make my wife tuck me in at night. So
I'm glad you have a wife that'll do that for you, Nate.
yep. And you think I'm joking too. Okay, it's not every night, but
Most nights. The
I
cold
do.
nights.
I do jokingly tell her sometimes, like, tuck me in.
Thanks for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
See you next week.